try to act like they are trained and they're not trained and they mess things up. So yeah. So we'll see. I should turn it on again. Because on the actual page, it shows that we are live, but apparently we are not.
You know, I'm learning to be a little bit more like you, where I would normally just be quiet, bottle things up and fix it and then eventually I just want to go smack a tree. But you're very good at just letting it out and and so I've been learning to
Well,
do that a little more. Speaking of influence, yes, you've been a very positive influence, I must say,
oh, thank you.
in that respect, for sure.
So I just sent you what I'm seeing, what I'm looking at, because it says that we are in fact live on 4 channels, but apparently we are not.
Yeah.
Well, it's always a joy to talk with you, you know. Are we on? That is so funny. Yes, because on the Facebook pages, I didn't see it either, but then I checked, and on YouTube channels, I did see it.
Uh,
So I sent you on Messenger what I see. It's rather confusing. She goes, now we are on.
okay.
Okay. All right. So then again, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Royal Cup. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been chatting with Mark since an hour, and we thought that we are live, and apparently we were not. So I guess we are just going to start it now. And this will be our last Royal Club session show for this year. So you better join us. Apparently, they said, my colleagues are telling me that we are live. Whether we are or not, we're not going to start it again. Anyway, it still doesn't look like we are live, but who cares? Yes, we are live on Price Valve. Okay. Okay. But anyway, we're happy you're here. You're happy we're here. Everyone's happy. And it's going to be Christmas very soon. And that's also another source of happiness. Anyway, Mark is here with us because he wants to tell us something about influence. So just pick it up wherever.
Sure. Well, since people didn't hear the first part, I really think that it is quite important. So I am just going to say that very short story again. So Kevin Lehman from Focus on the Family told a story about his daughter, how she wanted to go in a different state, go see her grandmother and grandfather, and they had to fly there. So instead of just him putting her on the plane and sending her on her way and trusting all the flight attendants and so on, he went with. And the flight attendants were actually, because he was on the plane with her, they started a conversation, found this out, and said, well, you could have. Like, I don't know why you didn't trust us. And he said, look, it's not about whether I trust you or not. She's not your responsibility. She's mine. And so he took it upon himself to go through that to make sure that she was taken care of because of the influence. And then we were talking about daycare and how when you drop a child off daycare, what kind of influence are they receiving by the people who are looking after them? And scrolling down here a little bit so I can make sure I stay on track. Um, so then what kind of influence are you allowing your children to be under? Who are you giving your children to as an example? Now, I bring that as a child because that's easy to understand. What kind of influence are we allowing ourselves to be under? Also, that's also as important. Um, what we allow in our lives, we are going to uh how do I say that? Other people will be affected because that's what's in our heart, right? So it's yeah. And then I wanted to talk a little bit. You were talking about women last time and the importance of women and so on, and I would agree completely. And growing up Mennonite, we did things a little bit different, where it was defined some of the roles that women had and some of the roles that men had. And it's not that they couldn't overlap. That wasn't it. But it was clearly defined that the women did most of the cooking and raising the children, and the men went out and did the working and taking care of that part. And of course, they would always help one another. And it just worked. And I found that most of the women were quite happy and most of the men were quite happy because they were doing what what kind of their strengths were. Now, that doesn't mean that every woman is going to be the same and every man's going to be the same. But in that setting, it just worked. And
Mhm.
and I, it was quite amazing, I thought, to see how people grew in that environment. Um, you didn't have to question about what you should be doing. You already knew. And there was a great influence on everyone of unity and how people can work together in unity. When Apostle travels, as an example, I'm thinking people are assigned to do things, and that's what they do, just so then it's easy. It's not that everybody can should know how to do everything, but at the same time, if that night this is what you're doing, then you just stick with that, and then
Yes.
it would just things just run smoother, right? And so there is a big influence to everyone about what you're doing and how clear, when things are clearly defined, I think it creates an atmosphere of what you're doing, um, where it's clear and people respect that. Um, I wanted to look at some scriptures. I wanted to start off with Colossians 3 and starting at verse 12. And the reason is, what influence should we be uh a, exuding? Would that be the right word in
Mhm.
this text? What example should we be showing? So in Colossians 3, starting at verse 12, it says, "You are always and dearly loved by God. So robe yourself with virtues of God, since you have been divinely chosen to be holy. Be merciful as you endeavor to understand others." Being merciful is a very strong way to influence people around us. Be compassionate, showing kindness toward all. Be gentle and humble, unoffendable in your patience with others. Tolerate the weakness of those in the family of faith, forgiving one another in the same way you have been graciously forgiven by Jesus Christ. If you find fault with someone, release this same gift of forgiveness to them. For love is supreme and must flow through each of these virtues. Love becomes the mark of true maturity. Let your heart be always guided by the peace of the Anointed One who called you to peace as part of his one body. And always be thankful. And so when we live this way, we set a great example and have great influence to people around us.
Absolutely.
I recently heard one of Trump's daughters speak of Lashon Hara. So I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Mm.
Have you ever heard of it?
I don't think so.
Okay, so it's a Jewish um not so much even a belief, it's like a definition of when somebody does something wrong, specifically Lashon Hara, to speak evil. And the idea of it is when a person speaks evil, they not only harm the people that they're speaking about, they're also harming themselves
Mm.
because of the power of words. And so it is a very it is very frowned upon to do that, and do not speak evil of anyone in any situation for any reason, is the idea. You can warn others about someone. That's okay because you're trying to protect one another. But to actually speak evil is not good. Romans 12
No,
says,
sorry. If
Mhm.
I can, if I can, just put in another question. So let's say you want to warn somebody about somebody.
Yeah,
How do you warn them without telling them what the issue
right,
is?
right.
Person?
So that's where trying to remember what Pastor Eve Bassett, she said it so well. Um, uh, what did she say? Anyways, but there's a big difference between talking about someone for their help and to warn others as well, versus sharing something about someone, but you kind of almost have to like whisper kind of thing, you know what I mean? So it's
It
it has a
raises
lot
the
to,
motivation. Is that what you say?
yeah, it has a lot to do with your heart. Yes. So are you wanting help for this person or not? Okay, so here's a good example then. Let me give you an example. There was in Alaska, so Mary Glacier was a lady who came here in Edmonton in right around 2000, in there somewhere, the year 2000. What had happened is they had a revival in Alaska where she was, and she was actually leading the intercession team there, who had who led the influence uh, of the revival in that area. Jails were emptied, all kinds of different things.
Wow.
It was just
Powerful.
amazing, just amazing. So she came and she was sharing with, what they did and how they did it and so on. So she said one time the school, the principal had contacted her and said, listen, one of the teachers that was hired has now openly said that she's a witch, and she's going to have great influence on the children, and we don't like this. So can you please pray, because this is going to be bad for everyone involved. So they went to prayer. And this, she said, what they prayed was, and she says, your heart needs to be that you want to protect the person because God created this person, but at the same time, you want to protect everyone else from the evil that could come from this situation if it's if it's allowed. And so they prayed, Lord, I thank you that you bring this person to salvation in you, but you remove them from this situation and influence now, the way it is now, so that they don't harm anyone. And that's kind of that's kind of what I mean, right? And the result of that prayer, I guess I should say what happened. The result of that prayer was actually she went blind in one eye. Right after,
Whoa, the
right
witch.
after, yeah, right after they prayed that. I think it was her left eye. She went blind,
Oh,
and she said the
left
reason
especially, yeah.
she said the reason was that, demonically, that's kind of a symbol they would
Yes, it is.
understand. Yeah,
It's
that's
wax.
kind of how they would see. And she says, opposing forces have come against me and I have to leave, is what she had said, and then she left. But
Ah, okay.
yeah. But their heart was, God, I pray that you protect this person too, and that they find salvation, right? So anyway, so Lashon Hara, to speak evil, is very highly frowned upon. Romans 12 says in verse 14, bless those who persecute you, don't curse them, pray that God will bless them. Proverbs 25:21 and 22 says, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him drink. By doing so, you will heap burning coals of shame on their heads, and the Lord will reward you. I remember being uh walking away from the Lord at the time, getting into all kinds of crazy things and so on, and kind of focusing more on evil than good at the time. And this verse, when God called me out of all that,
Mm.
this verse really stood out because I remember trying to curse people, and their response to me was in kindness and love. And I remember it felt like there was a heat that had gone on my head
Wow.
and went down over my body, and it
Wow.
bothered me so, so much. And then I came across this verse and I said, oh my goodness. Not only, like, this verse says, it is like heaping burning coals of
Yes.
shame on their heads. And so, no, I literally felt it. Literally.
Wow.
So this verse really has a lot of
This is
meaning
a
to me.
powerful testimony.
Yeah. So then how does a person go about Lashon Hara, not speaking evil? And how can we remember that so that we don't have a negative influence on people, but a positive one? So there's a story. A man realized that he had committed Lashon Hara. He spoke evil of people, and he knew that this was not a good thing. And he went to a rabbi and said, Rabbi, can you please help me? I need to stop doing this. And he said, okay, do you have a pillow at
Yes.
home? He says, yes. And he says, is it filled with feathers? And he said, yes. Okay. I want you to go home and I want you to grab that pillow and come back. Are you serious? Yes. Go grab the pillow. So he goes, he comes back. He says, now I want you to cut the pillow open a little, and I want you to go in every street and every back alley, and I want you to just throw the feathers out. Just start doing that. So he started doing that, and he emptied the pillow. And he comes back and he says, now what? He says, now I want you to go back out and pick up all those feathers and put them back in the pillow. And he says, that's impossible. He says, that is just like your words. Once they're spoken, how do you take them back? It is a very serious thing. You need to learn to not speak evil.
Excellent example.
So yeah, so I thought that was so good and so well spoken. So I thought that was really good. But that is, we can have that positive influence or negative influence on people, and a lot of it has to do with our heart. Uh, I read earlier how love um, demonstrates maturity. For love is supreme. Sorry, I should give the reference here. Colossians 3 and verse 14. For love is supreme and must flow through each of these virtues. And the virtues were gentleness, compassion, mercy, kindness, and so on, love becomes the mark of true maturity. And I think that's very important. So we've had a conversation as I've gone along, but that is what I wanted to share today.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, influence is also influence is a thing that we all do, even without realizing it, isn't it? Because I think before we went live, we were chatting about even your very presence is an influence. Even your atmosphere you create around yourself is also an influence. So it doesn't have to be something that's spoken or something that's actually visible. It's just the atmosphere you actually carry with yourself or the atmosphere you create around yourself. So whether you have children or not, children come around you. If they come around you, and that's another whole another different matter, because children are very honest. They will not do things just because they want to be polite unless they are forced to. So you can also see that if a person is liked by children or liked by animals, that person is a good person. But then you also see the atmosphere, isn't it? That when children just avoid a person, they can't really put their finger on it, but they just somehow feel the atmosphere. Even babies, they don't like being, they become squirmish, or they just want to, get away from that person's arm or something. So that, that's a clear indication that something's there. So that has to be the atmosphere we create around ourselves, even without words, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that is something that children pick up, even as young as, I don't know, I mean, babies probably too. And that teaches them good and bad. So that is something that, like, we cannot carry resentment. We cannot carry like an atmosphere of anger or aggressivity or even passive aggressivity, because they pick it up.
Yeah, that's very true.
So you want to always have harmony around you, calmness around you, peace around you. And then you will see the children and everybody else want to be around you and hang around you, because the atmosphere you create. So yeah, it's very important.
Yeah.
If a home is always stressful, that child will be stressed. And they can't tell you why they stress. They just always want, on edge, because that's what they pick up at home.
Right.
Terrible. Yeah. It's very important.
Yeah, and you mentioned even animals will respond, and I was literally thinking that as you were about as you were just before you said it, I was thinking that. I have my cat sitting beside me, so that's why I was thinking
love
that.
cats.
But I remembered that you had said that you had a cat that before, and how there were certain people, if they came around, is that am I correct? If they came around, that would just hide?
They would hide, mostly from children, because they knew that they're going to be just,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They had no regard for them whatsoever in that sense. They loved them too much. I think that was the loved them too much. Of course, they would hide. And but they would always come around after they left. They would just come back and come out of the hiding. And yes, sometimes I would let them, because I'm trying to be merciful for animals, poor babies, really.
Yeah.
But I also read, especially cats, they are very, very sensitive, and they don't do things that they don't want to do. And I respect them for that. Dogs do things they don't want to do because they love you too much. But cats are different. So if a cat does something that you want them to do, it's because that cat wants to do that thing, and also because they love you. So for instance, I think like the highest honor and highest trust is when they sleep with you. Because they feel comfortable with you, they feel safe with you, they know that you will protect them. And also there are cats who don't want to sleep with you, and they are, or maybe it takes a time, but that's what I heard, that this is the highest honor, that they really relax, that they come around when you are sleeping, they want to sleep there. And it's their choice because of the atmosphere you create. But also cats are very, very sensitive to atmosphere. They want to be at peace. They want to be peaceful, isn't it? They don't like change. They don't like much movement. They would hide somewhere, anywhere really, when there are not much movement, because they want calmness, they want peace, they want rest. And I think it's a good indication if they come out, because then they feel relaxed.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
good.
I would agree. I think horses are similar also.
Yes,
Similar to
I never
cats.
had horses, and you can't keep them in the apartment, but yeah,
No,
I
no.
assume they are very similar.
Yeah, there was a story about how there's a lady had a ranch. Again, focus on the family. It's amazing.
Oh,
I didn't realize, like, I speak about it so much. I didn't realize what an influence they had on my life for so many years. Anyway, but they had such true stories. They just had people on all the time talking about their ministries, talking about different things, talking about the positive things, and when things get hard, how do you deal with it, and so on. So
hmm.
there's a lady, she had a ranch, and horses that were abused, she would take them and then she would bring them back again. But she would also take children who were abused,
Hmm.
match them up to horses.
Wow.
So there was this one horse. So she tells of this story about a horse that was so badly abused,
Oh,
no one, absolutely no one could get close. That
yeah.
horse didn't trust anyone. This young girl comes and she was severely abused, severely. And she too, she didn't trust anyone. She was there with her mom, but even there, she says like she won't even trust me either, really, you know. So the lady says these are the horses, and she says what we do, and she was telling the girl, what we do is we allow the horse to choose the person. So you
Oh,
just come here
how
and mingle
wonderful.
around, and one of the horses will come, and then we'll try to connect you. And as you heal, the horse, as the horse, you and the horse will heal together, kind of thing.
Oh, how
You,
extraordinary.
yeah, it was just wonderful. So this
That's
horse that was so badly abused that nobody could get close, walked right up to this girl.
wow.
And they were just like eyes just huge. The way she described it is like, what is going on right now? Like we did not expect this at all. And the horse walked up and went right beside her and took its shoulder and kind of bumped it into her shoulder. Then,
Wow.
then took its head and turned towards and pushed the girl into its body.
Wow.
And the girl was scared.
Like giving her a hug.
Yes. And the girl was scared. And she says, what's happening? What's going on? And that's literally what she said. I think the horse is giving you a hug.
Yeah,
And
that's how they do.
and they
It's
bonded, and I don't know the rest of the story, but you can only
oh, I'm
imagine.
sure the stories that they both healed.
Yeah. So isn't
I
that an
love it.
incredible thing? Yeah.
That's
Now,
wonderful.
now you know why I like to focus on the family so much. They, they all kinds of things, and it was just so impactful. Uh,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. So, but it was just
I
quite
also heard that autistic children are healing with horses.
okay.
Different animals, but especially with horses.
I hadn't heard that, but I can see,
Yeah,
judging by that
autistic.
story, yeah, how that
Autistic,
would
like
work.
severely autistic, like they don't know how to calm down, they don't know how
Right,
to calm themselves, they don't communicate
right.
very little. So
Yeah.
basically, it's hard for humans to deal with them, even when they are therapists, I suppose. But sometimes words are not necessary when it comes to healing.
Hmm.
So animals can calm them down
Yeah.
and vice versa. So again, the same way that because they trust the animal and the animal trusts them.
Hmm.
But the animal sees what we don't see. Most of the animals see the spiritual world. They literally see
Yes.
the demons and the angels. So I guess when they look at someone, especially like a severely abused, they see all that thing. So they see way more than
Hmm.
what on
I
on
haven't forgotten what Kenneth Copeland said one time. He said the story of Jonah, he
Mhm.
said, why did it says, and God told or caused the whale to come and grab Jonah and so on. And he said, God is spirit. And so how did he communicate with the whale or tell the whale? I mean, God can do anything, but he was just talking about, let's just look at it. And he says, because animals, just like you just said, see spiritually.
as well as physically.
Physically, of course, of course, of course. But I mean, yeah, and so it kind of makes me wonder about the soul part in there somewhere. I don't know
Oh,
how.
they see the spiritual world.
Yeah,
That's very obvious.
yeah,
For instance, like how many times we have heard stories or even saw that like I think there is even a hospital, maybe several, where horses are allowed to go to patients, and these patients are in the hospital, and they are kind of like a hospice, really. These people are there to go on the to die, basically. But the horses are there to go and whomever they want to go to.
hmm
And would go to the ones that are about to depart. How would they know? Because they see their angels standing around waiting for that spirit to come out of the body.
right, right, right.
Same with cats. Cat would stare in a direction you don't know. To you, it's nothing there, but they see something there. Whether it's
Yeah,
positive, or they react favorably. If it's negative, then they would stare and then they don't like it. And you can tell that they stress because they are fixing their gaze somewhere that to you there's nothing there, but they see the spiritual world.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
it has been proven so many times. I think it's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I'm just
Beautiful.
thinking. Growing up, I was spent so much time outside and always around animals and things, and yeah, I just kind of really got me thinking there when you were saying that, just how many times, I've seen animals do interesting things and strange things. And,
You don't know why, yeah.
yeah, and then you kind of question what's going on right now, what's happening. Yeah,
It's clear that they see the angels. For instance, the animal of Balaam, um, donkey,
yeah,
the
okay,
donkey
yeah,
saw the angels who was about to strike Balaam. Balaam said, "Oh, just go, go, go!" And just, "Can't you tell that I'm going as fast as I can? You pushing my leg against? That's because I'm trying to protect you. The angel is there to strike you." The
yeah.
donkey saw the angel. The human didn't, even
Yeah.
though he was a prophet.
That's
Isn't
a
that
very that's very true. That's literally
Yeah,
what it says. Yeah.
that says.
And the donkey spoke to him, which was really interesting too.
Well, you see, that's what Cat says, Cat Kerr, that and of course that's also proven that they have all the vocal cords able to speak,
Hmm.
but God forbid them to speak, or not forbid them, but God did something that they couldn't speak because he said, all the animals, because he said it's enough for me that humans curse me. I don't want to hear it from the animals as well.
Yeah.
And they would learn it from humans. That's the thing. They would
Yes, they
learn it
would.
from humans because there's no guile in an animal. They
Hmm.
learn it from humans.
Yeah.
So they don't want, God didn't want it to be corrupted. They don't want them to be corrupted by humans, but they are able to physically speak. They
Well,
just
you just look at a parrot,
learn from the
you just look at a parrot, or you look at a crow
Yes,
or a
exactly.
magpie, even some of them, they can actually
Exactly.
speak. And there's one bird that literally what it does is it just repeats everything around it.
Right. Yeah, like yeah.
And the one where trying to remember the nature guy, but anyway, the bird was there was a car alarm and off in the distance at one point, and they were recording the bird and the different sounds that it would make, and all of a sudden it did a car alarm, like a literal perfect. And I'm like,
Yeah,
what in the world? So it heard that somewhere,
like a
sometime.
recorder,
Huh?
like a recorder,
Yeah,
a
exactly.
record, and they just play it back.
Exactly.
Amazing abilities they have. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is very amazing for sure. Yeah, in
So
my
we can
case,
move away from the influence. The subject is influence on our animals. But that's what I like about the club. We just chat and then people enjoy it anyway, and they just write us how blessed they were. So that's a good thing. So
yeah.
yes, influence. Anything else you want to share about influence? Oh, you
That
also
mhm.
asked like what type of influence like our kids have. And I was mentioning that they have the school influence and they have the home influence, and the two sometimes don't match at all.
That's right.
So obviously the responsibility is more on the family. And many years, well, maybe not many years ago, but a while ago I did share, I don't know what the topic was at the time, but I did share that of course I grew up in communism. So in the school, talk about influence. So in the school, I would always hear the BS, the communist BS, but I never believed it. I mean, never believed. I looked at it like, okay, it's like a theater. They say this stuff. I could tell that they believe it.
Yeah.
But I knew I didn't, and they knew I didn't, because when I went home, they explained to me that this is absolutely garbage. Lenin is not a hero. Soviet Union at the time, the Soviet Union is not a hero. They are actually occupying Hungary for 45 years, actually. So I was born like at the tail end of the communism, but I was still, I still grew up in it until I was 19. So that's a long time, really. All
That
my
is a long time.
and stuff. Yeah. So anyway, I always had these two influences, but I always knew which is the true. Which is the true, which is the real, which is the godly one, the one that was at home. Therefore, whatever I heard in the school didn't affect me. So I want to say it as a testimony that if you set a strong example and a strong guideline and a strong path in your home to your children, it doesn't matter how old they are, they will always know the truth.
Right.
And they will always able to tell what is what, even if they hear the polar opposite in school, no matter how old they are, they will always have a good moral compass. They will always know what the truth is, and nobody can take them away from there.
Yeah.
So that's how influential a parent, a home, really, a home atmosphere is. So no matter the propaganda, none of us believed it. Neither of my brothers and sisters, neither of them, any of them, because we knew that we are Christians. We knew that those people are not Christians. They don't believe in God, or they claim that they don't. And the whole thing is about against God. And of course, we don't want to join them because we are for God. And that was the bottom line. That was the bottom line. And that's sometimes all you have to do to to show the child and to explain to the child, this is what it is. So don't get confused. No matter how nicely they try to entice you into their own thing, this is what it is. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And if they understand that, I'm sure they understand that. The children are, I think, much more perceptive than what we give them credit for. And they may not be able to verbalize it, but they will know exactly inherently what's right, what's wrong. But you need to show them. And then from that point onward, they will not depart from it. So I think the majority of the responsibility is on the parent and in the atmosphere of the home. So they can come home with all kinds of stupid ideas, but then it's like, excuse me, this is home. We don't do these things here. We don't say these things here. This is not the atmosphere we're trying to create here. So you just put your foot down and set the guidelines. Like, for instance, there is no telephone around the dinner table, no TV around the, I don't know, playtime. You guys communicate with each other. You guys play cards or whatever, or read. Hello. Just set the guidelines. Just because everybody else is watching the programs, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. I grew up reading because we didn't have television, not because we couldn't afford it, but because we didn't want to. Well, we did. Children wanted to have television, but my parents didn't want us to grow up with television. And therefore, we never watched any of these popular shows. I mean, I grew up without television. I think I was maybe 15 or plus when we had our first sets. When we had our first set of television. Wow. But the point is that we grew up literally without television. We had to play outside. We had to play with each other. We had to play games. We had to communicate. Imagine that. No telephone in those days, and we still survived. And the harder part was when you go like in the morning and everybody talks about last night's show in the television, and you just didn't watch it. You didn't know. We were the only ones in the whole school, huge school, who didn't own a television set, and people didn't believe it. It's, no, I never watched it because I don't have a television. We don't have television. Why? And I explained to them that because my parents think that they don't want us to be raised by television. So we read. So what do you do? Well, we read. Yeah, we read. Yeah. And at that time, we didn't have this distraction of the telephones. Now it's even worse. But the point is, there's always going to be something that distracts you for something that you should be doing, or something that would be better for you to do. So what a parent should do in terms of influence, because that's what we're discussing, take away their telephone, lock it, put a timeline on it, or something that my sister does it with the kids. So that's how I know there's this parent control thing, the time thing that that they literally can't go over, I think, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, however long you set it. So they actually have to do their own research, they have to do their own thinking, they have to do their own talking, and they have to do their own entertaining. That's the other thing. People walking on the streets with their stupid telephone because they literally have to be entertained all the time.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Adults, even.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah, my work.
They have no thoughts. They have no thoughts. So I can only imagine they have no thoughts on their own because they never grew up with books.
Yeah.
Because with books, you have to imagine. That's the thing. That's how you develop your imagination. Books are good influence. Obviously, you want to choose the books, but I mean, talk about in general, not a bad thing to learn how to read and write while you're reading the book. And the other thing is you have to imagine what you write, what you read. With television, the television imagines it for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How many times we have experienced when there's a book, we read a story, and then, of course, comes out the movie, and the movie is pretty much always a disappointment. Why? Because your imagination was better. You imagine those, characters in Narnia, for instance, much better than what they portrayed it in the on the movies. And there were several remakes, actually, not just one, but none of them comes even close to the books. I think it's an absolute disgrace. And it didn't really pick up either. You could tell most people didn't like it.
Yeah.
The stories are wonderful, nothing wrong with the storyline, but the way it was presented, the characters, I think they don't come close to what I imagined. I think I've seen them like once. I even own those, the Narnia stuff, on the in movie, but I think I got myself to watch it like once. But the books, I can listen to them and read them over again. That's not a problem. That's how powerful nothing can top your imagination. That's the thing.
I think it was, maybe I got the name wrong. Andrew Warmack, does that sound right?
Yeah, sounds familiar.
But he was saying he's convinced that hope is imagination. That when you when for 38 years he was just boy, normally I'm better with names today for some reason. Todd White.
What is he doing?
Huh? Yeah, he's a minister, and he was just talking with Todd White, and they were having a conversation. So he for 38 years he said he and his wife struggled in their ministry financially. They were in debt, and they went bankrupt and whatever different things. And then God really showed him something about hope and imagination, how he began to literally stand in an area, like let's say that he was going to put a building up, was his vision, was his hope. And he would stand there on that spot and begin to preach, literally preach an entire sermon and so on, even though it was just dirt. And eventually everything came into place and they had a building, and it just kept going and going and going and going. He now has $1 billion plan.
Wow, good.
38 years they struggled, and now he has a $1 billion plan, and they're just going to keep growing. And he said, for God it's so easy, but he says, how do you do it? And so he literally says he believes that hope is imagination to do that. So that was his definition. I'm not saying that's true. I'm not saying whatever. I'm just saying that's what he said, and that obviously it's working. Something's going on there. So but speaking of imagination, it is very, very powerful for certain. And we do need to guard our imagination, but at the same time, like for me growing up, we were told that imagination was evil, that you don't imagine things because it can lead you to somewhere that you don't want, and so on. And so obviously it was all based out of fear and so on. So that's absolutely not true. Imagination is a tool and a gift given to
Very
us
godly.
by God.
Imagination is a godly thing. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And so, yeah, I think that's a very, very powerful thing. And I agree with you totally that imagination is very important, actually, too. Yeah.
Very
Well,
important.
and I was going to say too, like I used to listen to the radio a lot, and I've met some radio hosts. I don't mean in like a big formal way, having an
Yeah.
interview, whatever, but I happened to bump into them. It was kind of strange. It was kind of surreal. It's like, oh, I know that voice. Who are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you. I listen to you on the radio. And very often I would say, you know what? You look absolutely nothing like you sound. Because I had
Mm.
an imagination, I
Of
had an
course.
image in my
I know.
mind about what they would look like. And then I meet them and I'm just like, nope, not even close.
Wow.
Every time too. Like it was
Yeah,
just,
nothing can top your imagination. That's the thing.
yeah, yeah.
But you have to allow your imagination as a child, especially to grow and to develop. And if you miss that, especially in the formative year, formative years, if you miss that window, then of course the neuron pathways in your brain cannot develop that way.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of, it would be interesting. Maybe I should do a study on it. It would be interesting to see what kind of brain these people have these days,
Hmm.
like the ones that grew up with the telephone. I don't think they have too many pathways.
Hmm.
Honestly, I'm thinking
Right.
because they don't have to imagine anything. It was always imagined for them. It
Yeah,
was
because
like it's like a
Mhm.
food was chewed for them. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, 100%.
That's
You ask
crazy.
them, you ask them a question, and right away they're like, "Oh, let me check on my phone."
Oh
Right?
gosh.
Over and over and over again. At work, I see it all the time. And there's myself, I can do both, and I can easily
Yeah.
put my phone down, or if it's time to look on the phone,
That's
it's
the thing. You can
fine.
put your phone down. Try
Yeah.
doing this with this generation. I don't know if they can because
And
it's
then there's,
literally addicted. It's
yeah.
like it's embedded into their personality
And
in
then there's,
any daily activity.
yeah. And then
We
there's
can go both ways. That's a good one.
Yeah, I think it's good. God was really helped me with that to be able to, because for a while I'm like, "Oh, I don't even need it at all. What do I need a phone for? Da, da,
Yeah.
da, da. Just all I need to do is phone and text, and that's it. Da, da, da." But I mean, in today's world, it's not really. You can, but you will be kind of left.
Especially if you don't watch television, then of course you want to kind of inform yourself.
Yeah.
And the telephone is perfect for that. But most people do have the television and they do watch it a lot, and they also have the telephone in their hands all the time. So it's like, when do you have time to interact with people? Well, actually, we don't really have. All the time you see people sitting next to each other, even at dinner, and each of them are in their telephone. This is the most ridiculous and at the same time most tragic thing.
Hmm.
Young people and old, the same. Not old like, but 40 or something, 40 plus. So yeah, people can get addicted into that if they
Oh
want
yeah,
to. But
absolutely.
yeah, in
Yeah.
some restaurants actually, they have you check the telephone at the door in
Hmm.
some restaurants. I like that. I actually like.
Oh really? I haven't seen that.
Yes.
Wow. Because there's a gentleman, I can see his face right now. But he says when he and his friends meet, no one has a phone. He says sometimes they'll have one person will have a phone in case there's an emergency or something
Yeah.
that they are able to call, but they have it's muted and everything's put away so that they can concentrate on their conversation.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
I think
That's
that's just so
normal.
wonderful. Yeah.
Same here. Same here. Also with our families.
Mm-hmm.
Also, nobody's addicted, apart from the children, nobody's addicted to a telephone ever, because we grew up without it, and because we make it a point not to.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, there's this meme that I'm old enough to remember that I went through a whole day without taking pictures of anything.
Mm.
And it's like
Yeah.
pictures of the dinner, pictures of the, I don't know, cat, this just, I mean, it just became a thing to take pictures.
Everything. Yeah. Yeah.
Terrible.
Very, very true. There's
It's
two.
nice to have the option, but to say that this is the only way you can live,
Mhm.
that's not okay. That
No.
just shows that something's wrong. So talk about influence. I think one of the things that we need to influence our children and even if we are not perhaps parents, but children in general, to put their telephone down and to talk with each other.
Mhm.
And if you are in any kind of authority position over them, then take the phone away.
Yeah.
They thank you later.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
It's
they
true.
thank you later.
Yeah, because really it is a true addiction. It can become that if a
Yeah,
person.
and also it just basically robs them of having their imagination developed.
Yeah.
And robs them of the memory they could be creating with the people around them.
Yeah.
Because
And
everybody has a telephone.
and that lady that I had mentioned earlier about how she disciplines children and she's quite strict and so on, she honestly believes too that children shouldn't have access to phones.
Oh, I believe that too.
Yeah. I really liked her, actually. I'm gonna investigate her a bit more just because I like what she has to say and I kind of want to pursue that a little bit more.
There's this saying that the phones are getting smarter and we are getting more stupid.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Because you rely on your telephone for everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything. Imagine if there's a shortage of, I don't know, power or outage or something.
Right? That's
What's
exactly
going to
what I said.
happen? You'll actually have to talk to the people you have around you. Oh my goodness. And you never spoken a word in like 10 years. So how are you going to formulate your sentences?
Yeah.
Terrible.
There
I
was
think that day is coming actually.
a couple years ago, year and a half ago, the banking system in North America here for a certain banks, they were all using a certain system. The whole system crashed.
All right. Okay.
Nobody could go to any business that was tied in with it, any banking system that was tied in with it, and any consumer that was tied in with it had zero access to each other, zero,
Wow.
completely cut off. The businesses closed their doors for that time until things were
For how long though?
because they couldn't process anything.
Of course.
So, sorry?
For how long?
Oh, it was only a couple days, but still, it was an eye opener. But even two
Yeah.
2 days, I mean, you can lose a lot of money in 2 days.
Oh
And
yeah. Yeah.
repeat customers may have gone somewhere else now. And are you getting them back? Who knows, right? It's like, well, I don't know, those
Yeah.
guys,
Yeah,
whatever.
that's tricky because like it happened once, then maybe it can happen again. So maybe I'm
Yeah,
not going.
yeah. And if they keep coming to you all the time and didn't realize that there was maybe something like whatever, you had a certain food and they always came in because that was their favorite, but they couldn't get it, then they go over here and it's like, wow, these guys have something even better now. Wow.
That's true. That's true.
What?
Actually, this happened to me. It happened to
Yeah.
me. I ran out of my favorite drink, and then I went to the store next door,
Mm,
which I would never consider otherwise. And I thought, you know what, this is better. So now I don't care if they don't run out, you know. If they
mhm.
run out again, not a problem. I just go to the next one. A different store and slightly different drink, but
Yeah.
very similar. That's so close enough, is what I'm saying. So I don't get panicked if this one just stops selling it. I don't care. But yeah, you're right. That's the way to lose customers.
And but I bring that up because you had mentioned about how people so hooked on their phones, whatever. So we had a conversation at work where one of the younger people there said, you know what? I don't think we should have cash anymore. I don't think we should have anything like that anymore. Everything should be digital. If they came out with a digital ID and a scanner, I would be the first person in line to have it
Mm.
because I mean, I don't want all this kind of stuff. And I said, it can crash. These things could crash. They will never crash. They've got it now that it's just.
Because they never experienced it.
That's right. And then a short time later, it crashed. What I'm telling you about, what I was just telling you about happened. And I have a picture. There was of a drive-through and it had a sign on there that their banking system was down. And I took a picture of it and I have it.
Showed it to
And every so
her.
often, if anybody has a conversation with me about it, I'm like, here's this picture. You want to have a look at that? Tell me it's not possible. It is possible.
Wow. Imagine if she would have been chipped in. Then
And
what? No, there's no telling what happens if you're chipped in. So are you
right.
going to know your data? Does it have to be operated out of you? So what's going to happen?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? Yeah. So the
Exactly.
plan.
Who knows? Because there was no this trial period when they would actually You know, so literally no one knows what would happen if they would crash.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Paper is good enough.
And gold. Yeah. And gold, right?
Yeah, gold. I mean, it's
Yeah.
convenient to have, you know, oh, just slide your, I don't know, your finger or whatever. Yeah. But again, you never, number one, your money is not with you. You
Mhm.
don't know what it is really.
Nope. Nope.
And it can become unavailable suddenly with no explanation and with no telling for how long.
Mhm.
Or just maybe just disappears from the computer altogether and you just don't know. Oh, we don't know.
No, we don't know. Yeah, it all just disappeared. We have no idea what happened.
I was just in an office dealing with some of the issues with this whatever, and someone was at the I was sitting at a table, but next door a gentleman was sitting trying to sort out his business at another table. And the lady on the other end, whose job it would have been to tell him what happened to his 3 million forints, she said, I'm looking at the screen. I don't see where that money was taken off of your account and where it went to. Can you imagine? She
Wow.
said, there's no, we don't know where your $3 million was taken to. It wasn't hacked into. That office where what she represented took it, but there was no number that it would tell you where it went to. He goes, well, what I can do, go back to your bank. She said, go back to your bank, ask them to give you like this monthly
Statement.
the monthly statements, reports, whatever, and then try to find, you know, where it happened. Yeah, it's in April. Okay, go through April. That's what literally she said. Go through April and look at that amounts that you're looking for, that you're missing, and see what number it went to, because I can't see it on my screen, she said. I was like, what? You guys incassoed his thing, and you don't even have a recording on that on your own computer, and that's your job. So the guy has to hunt his money down.
Yeah.
Because now he doesn't even know who took it. And the lady doesn't know who took it either. And it wasn't hacked. That was not the issue.
Wow.
I was like, what? Oh my goodness.
Ridiculous.
That's yet another reason why I don't want to keep your money in the bank. Anybody just can think, and that the whole thing was an accident or a mistake. It wasn't even justified. But she wasn't even able to tell him where it went to. What? 2 or 24, and you don't know. Well, that's nice. But you want me to store my money there. I was like, this is so sobering.
Yeah.
So sobering. So anyway, don't chip yourself in. Hold on to your cash. Hold on to your gold. It will only go up. And we'll see. Trust God. So anyway, this has been another edition of our wonderful, beautiful Royal Club with Mark and with me. We will see you probably next year, but we just have to post when exactly that's going to happen. And happy, Merry Christmas. Have a wonderful, beautiful, blessed New Year, and we'll see you later. Have a good night. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining me. Love you. Say hi to your beautiful, wonderful family.